Marijuananet is the #1 source for state-licensed dispensaries and doctors in your area. Search our site, compare results, and get the help you deserve today at FloridaMarijuana.net.
Hi, this is Curtis Elmore from FloridaMarijuana.net. We're here with the Marijuana Solutions Show. Today we've got Frank Bianca here from Full Melt Fusion. He's going to share with us his insights about the industry. So without further ado, Mr. Bianca, how are you, sir?
Doing well, how are you?
I'm good, I'm good. So give us a little bit about your background. How did you come to MMJ, basically?
Basically, in college, I started doing some research as an economics major, some new emerging things, and I came up on the medical trend that was going on sweeping the country back in 2011, and I was really intrigued, honestly, about what was actually going to happen with the future of cannabis and national legalization. And then when I started hearing trends like states like Washington and Colorado that were actually creating amendments to protect basically the medical patients and their access to cannabis, versus like states like California who have propositions which are easier repealed than an amendment to a constitution, a state constitutional document. So for me, being an economics major, I was halfway through my master's at Florida State. I ended up stopping pursuing that so I can get boots on the ground in the cannabis industry over here. I had a multitude of options. It was going to be Portland, it was going to be Seattle, it was going to be Denver, and it was going to be California. I didn't really know if I was going to do North or South California. But those were the options that I had, and I really kind of narrowed it down based off of which one had the best legalization, I guess, momentum going forward. And that was really going to be Washington and Colorado, just based off primarily the fact that they have it ingrained into the Constitution. And I think that's the best foundational element that you have when you're trying to make a statewide legalization effort happening. So, yeah, and from there basically came over to Colorado. Checked out the industry, and the infrastructure for getting into the industry is a little different than most states. You have to get a full criminal background check. You can't owe any money to the IRS. You can't owe any money to student loans. You basically have to owe nobody anything in regards to government balances, and you basically have to have a squeaky clean criminal record. So that, again, helps narrow the amount of people that are influxing into the industry as workers as well. So all these multitudes of qualities that Colorado brought to the table in regards to my, I guess, security for moving forward as a career into this industry really solidified it. And Colorado really, I guess, has been probably the best effort that I've seen in regards to developing the infrastructure for laws, I guess, monitoring the seed to sale progress. I mean, in regards to minimalizing theft, I can imagine that, so many operations in probably California, which are probably tightening up now, but so many operations out there probably don't have the tight watched efforts from seed to sale that they do in Colorado. I mean, everything is literally tracked, which is great, honestly, because it allows transparency for the owner of the company, also for the employee of the company, in regards to covering their tracks as well. So, yeah, that's pretty much the main proponent that got me over here was the way that the law was written in Colorado.
So, and you recognize the vertical integration here in Florida as well, right? Similar?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's got to start somewhere. It starts with medical.
That's right. How long have you been in Florida?
Florida, I moved in there in '87. And I moved from Tallahassee to Colorado in 2011. I've been here since.
Okay. So where are you now?
I'm in Denver.
Denver, okay. Okay, great. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Just doing consulting, basically startup labs for people who want extraction or infusion operations set up, also CBD and hemp operations. Currently I'm working with one of the largest clients for cannabis that are going to be getting a license, hopefully, which I'll be aiding them in Pennsylvania. In negotiations with them right now in regards to what I'll actually be doing for them and what we'll be undertaking, but the end goal is to get them signed off on a license. So that's pretty much what I got going on right now, along with developing the YouTube channel to get the awareness of cannabis and the educational aspects of it out there.
What's your YouTube channel?
Full Melt Fusion.
Okay.
And I got a docu-series going right now where basically I'm explaining the basics, the foundational and the fundamental elements of cannabis, and how you can ingest it, what it is, how to properly use it. So I'm going to be releasing videos in a series starting last week was my first drop of a video.
Okay. How often are you going to release videos?
I should be doing one each week is what I'm trying to do right now. And if it picks up, it catches more steam, I get more subscribers, then yeah, absolutely, I'll do more videos.
Okay. Are they call-in or live, or is it recorded?
I did one video where I actually interviewed master grower for my company, which is he's a 5-time Cannabis Cup winning grower. His name's Corey Bird, and I did a 20-question Q&A with him. It was about a 40-minute interview, but the rest of the content on that channel is all informational and like I guess lecture based.
Okay. And you also have a website, Full Melt Fusion, right?
Yep, fuelmeltfusion.com.
What do people get off your website? What should they go there for?
On the website, basically, I got client resources on there. I have an employee portal where I have all the information that you would need as a consultant on the road. So if you need any type of forms that we have, I have a login portal for them. So it's good for the employee, and it's also good for the potential clients that are looking at the site as well, where they can actually access a physical portal where their data is kept. I have a research section on there where I post anything that's cutting edge that I'm into, and current industry recognition awards that we have, and also access to the book that I wrote, The Science of Cannabis, that's on there as well. So.
Okay, a book that you wrote? What's the book called?
Yeah, I published a book in 2015 called The Science of Cannabis. It's about a 60-page book, and it basically it's a primer on cannabis and what it is, how it's grown. Very basic, fundamental. It's not wordy. It's not very scientific. It's just explanatory without being super stonery or heady type of information. It's actually a professional document that portrays cannabis in a professional light, which it should be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Is that available on Amazon?
I have it on eBay right now, and then I have it directly to the website.
Okay, and what's the name, just so people can find it?
The Science of Cannabis.
The Science of Cannabis. All right.
Yeah, you can Google that, and it'll pull up in the search results. It'll be one of the top search results. So
tell us a little bit more about your website and the services people can find on there. Who are you looking for specifically, and who should be looking for you?
Primarily, we deal with two types of clients. Usually, it's some clients that have financial backing, and they're looking to break into either the hemp space or the cannabis space, and they're looking for a professional group that's going to do a full service package for them. And then there's also the clients that need process refinement, which basically what we'll do is we'll go into an operation and we do a full systems audit. We see where the holes are, where the needs for improvement are, where the strengths are, everything. So we do a full, literally, facility assessment, and based off that information, we're able to present to the client, this is the type of work that needs to get done here, this is the type of expectations you have, this is how long it's going to take to do it. So those are pretty much the two primary clients that we have, that we service.
Is there still a complete vertical integration out in Colorado, or are there multitudinous clients that are now available to you?
Vertical integration for sure. It's actually becoming very conglomeratized now, and especially with the hemp industry blowing up over here, you can see how it kind of trails in like a shadow of the cannabis industry in regards to its progress.
Tell us about
I
that.
hope. Well, what I'm hoping for. It's kind of the Wild West right now. I mean, they have the ability to kind of self-regulate themselves, which is a little different versus cannabis, which is extremely strictly regulated. I mean, everything in regards to pesticide use. I mean, health department standards. You're getting cross-utilized by all these government agencies, and they're all inspecting you. Versus in the hemp space, you really kind of need just a sign-off of like a fire inspector for the county or the fire inspector for the district, and then you can operate along with your hemp license that you get from the state or the Department of Agriculture. So right now, how they just rolled out the testing standards for medical in the cannabis industry. So now they test both recreationally and medically. I would hope that it's very soon that they start implementing those same standards for hemp, especially with pesticides, because a lot of hemp is grown outdoors, and I imagine the pesticides that people are using on the outdoor crop, which they tend to flip for a lower margin to move more units, and that's just circulating more oil out there that could, if it's not grown right, be potentially harmful to people that are ingesting it. So I think it's kind of trailing in the shadow of cannabis as in regards to how it's developing, but it's not nearly as caught up as it probably should be in regards to its development of its regulatory control over the Wild West aspect of hemp out here. So,
okay.
You are aware of the marijuana solution.
FloridaMarijuana.net is the #1 source for state-licensed dispensaries and doctors in your area. Search our site, compare results, and get the help you deserve today at FloridaMarijuana.net.
You are aware of the marijuana solution.
I noticed on your site it's the lowest one of all of them. Can you explain why you don't get the same concentration doing the dry sift as you would using a chemical extraction? A lot of people don't understand.
So actually, 33% is a pretty high percentage for dry sift because you're basically taking like a microplane to the side of the plant particulates, and you're not only shredding up the trichomes and the glandular structures, but you're also snatching pieces of plant matter as well, which is why I imagine that when you move to like a polar, non-polar solvent rinse, you would have more concentration of cannabinoids and terpenoids in that end extract. And then when you have like a solventless rinse or like a solventless wash, when you do like an ice extraction or an ice water extraction, an agitated ice extraction, the actual pieces of ice are actually chipping off those glandular structures, which are not going to be frozen, while the plant material would be frozen. So this, as you go up the chain in regards to your, miscibility with the plant material and the plant material constituents, you basically remove and make a more pure extract. So the dry sift is basically going to be your most basic.
Okay. And so, based on what you're saying, that's probably going to have the most additional plant matter in it, as opposed to the other extractions?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And it's going to also be all completely unactivated. It should be. I mean, if the grower knew what he was doing.
Yeah, or if it just sat out for endless amounts of time.
Totally.
So, in your experience moving out there, I'm not sure when you got out there, but were you there before the extraction boom? Because it's just caught fire and continued to run in the industry.
So I moved out here in 2011. I started doing hydrocarbon extractions in spring of 2012. And basically it was the Wild West when I was doing extractions. I remember the first gig that I had, I was blasting wax and oil and shatters out behind the dispensary that I was working for. And I was operating out of the MIP that they had, which is MIP is a manufacturer of infused products. That's basically our code for edibles or extraction facilities that are doing processing. So, I was blasting actually on a table out in the sun. It completely insane to think about that happening now. But I was using sunlight to purge it, the heat from the sun, to purge off the tain. But yeah, now we're using C1D1 rooms to do all of our extractions in Denver County. So it was insane when the boom happened. You could see the news stories skyrocketing of people blowing themselves up in their households, doing extractions, using space heaters on the ground, and doing all kinds of nonsense. Frictional elements in the room, you know what I mean? So yeah, it started blowing up, I guess, around, I'd say, the end of 2012, early 2013, and then it kind of skyrocketed up till about last year, which is when they started strictly enforcing the C1D1 rooms for extractions in Denver County and the surrounding areas, and also a strict enforcement that if you get caught blasting at your home or seen blasting or known to be blasting, you get serious penalties.
Okay, and
mean, that's obviously the authorities are coming down with these harsh penalties for public safety concern, people blowing their houses up.
And their neighbors and everyone else around them.
Yeah, could you maybe explain to people how serious this is? We haven't had many incidences of that happen in Florida, but like you said, I mean, I've heard from people that are blasting right next to the damn oven. I don't think people understand how quick, especially butane, can go up because of its low flash point and it's really fast burning.
Well, totally. So there's the two solvents that a lot of people are doing home extractions with are going to be your ethanol, your alcohols, and your butane. Or butane, or I guess some people would use maybe some kind of mixed gas. I don't know if people are doing home propane extractions. I really hope they're not. So butane is going to actually sink to the ground when it's extracted and it's in the room, and alcohol actually will go to the roof. So people who don't understand those basic qualities, I mean, it's dangerous in itself. The floor that you have, everything that you have on the floor, you got power cords on the floor, anything in the room that can create static discharge can basically ignite the entire room and all the butane and the gases and the hydrocarbons in the room like a barbecue igniter when you just press the little red button. It is actually so difficult to basically manage a complete full sterile operation that even in C1, D1 rooms, there's still issues with people lighting themselves on fire. So a C1, D1 room, basically what it is for the listeners that are out there is Class 1, Div 1 room, which is basically an explosion-proof room where all the lighting and electrical are explosion-proof and sealed to the point where if the whole room was immersed in hydrocarbons, the electricity would not be the point of ignition because those are all completely sealed. And all the moving parts in regards to the evacuation of the room is also done through a blast-proof fan, which the blast-proof fan obviously is able to have solvents roll through it and roll over it and through the ducting. So to the point where I've even heard stories of people who had a trash bag in a trash can, and they were dumping their columns from their extraction machines into the trash can. Once their trash bag was full, they'd pull it out. And when they pulled it out, it would create a static discharge on the side of the bag, and it would light these people on fire, even though they're in a Class 1 Div 1 room, and all the precautionary measures are taken. Even something like that can cause someone to basically go up. I have not had any accidents. Again, I've been extracting for over 4 years now, and I've operated a multitude of machines, and I've done open blasting. But if you don't know what you're doing, do not do it, and even if you know what you're doing, make sure that you're doing it in the right spot, especially regulatory, make sure you're doing it in the right spot.
Absolutely. A lot of people in Florida have, we don't have patient cultivation or caregiver cultivation, so a lot of people are turning to either cultivate themselves and doing their own RSO ethanol extractions or even blasting. A couple years ago, maybe a pound at a time or something.
Totally.
So it's definitely coming along, and we just want to make sure everyone understands how dangerous these little experiments can be, even though they're easy to do, especially the RSO. I mean, that's really simple.
Well, I would definitely recommend that if people are looking to do home grow and they're trying to do their own extractions, the best route, honestly, would be the trio, which I like to call it, which is going to be your dry sifting, your water extraction, and then your rosin. I mean, if you kind of trio those three things together and those processes together, you can round out a pretty decent return by operating with those three techniques together. Obviously, you operate one independently, you might have a low return. It might not be as high as you do with BHO, where you're getting a 10 to 12% return. If you're getting a higher than that return, I mean, obviously the plant material is testing a little better. But normally, what your return is going to dictate in regards to hydrocarbon extraction, if let's say your bud or your plant material tests at 18%, your hydrocarbon extraction should yield an 18% yield in oil. So if you run a pound of material, 454, you're going to get, if you're running out of 18% material, you should get 18% of 454 back. So that should be your optimal return. It's basically the percent of whatever comes in. And if you think about it logically, when you do run analytics on plant material and you run out a test result, that's telling you an accurate representation of how much is actually in there. So if you can capture the maximum, then that's an optimal return.
Absolutely. The rosin, that's a new technology that, well, it's not necessarily new, but one that's getting a lot of popularity. Most people in Florida still don't know what it is. Do you have any recommendations for the flat irons? Because most people are going to be, the patients are going to be using the flat iron to do it. I don't see many getting like a big t-shirt press or anything bigger than that.
Yeah, I would recommend them grabbing a Sasquatch press,
great.
Press out the rosin. That's going to probably be their best bet when they're doing whatever they're going to be running.
And is that material usable when you're done with it, since it hasn't had any hydrocarbons go through it or ethanol?
Oh yeah, you can do a second run on it. I mean, depends on if you're talking about an industrial setting or a home residential setting. If you're doing a home residential setting, I mean, you could still soak it in like an olive oil, coconut oil. You could actually make like a cooking oil out of it, whatever's left. It might have a little bit of a different taste, but I mean, if you're doing some kind of infusibles like lotion or some kind of topicals or maybe a massage oil, maybe the taste wouldn't really matter to you. But if you're running an industrial setting, then you can obviously you can run all this material in a CO2 machine, or you can run it through a hydrocarbon machine to get the remainders, and then maybe turn it into distillate if you'd like, because it might not taste that great.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're in the consulting industry right now in Florida. The pressure being exerted on the industry is pretty heavy from people wanting to get into it. And with that, just like it's happened in all the other states, there's a cash grab going on right now. A lot of people are offering classes to get into the industry. We don't even have regulations set.
Wow.
What are some, there's people that are charging a couple $100 to teach you bud tending 101.
Wow.
They will also teach you how to get into the industry and also charge you the low price of a few $1,000s for a business model, which, I thought was great. If I could get a business model for a few grand and you're telling me it's going to work and I'm going to profit, seems like a great deal, right?
No, I'd be speculative, man. Yeah. I'd be speculative for sure.
Right. I'm sure you probably work with clients that got hosed by somebody in the beginning and have come to you. I hear that a lot from, people doing good business. They're kind of cleaning up what a previous consultant may have done. We want to make sure our listeners don't get taken advantage of. What are some telltale signs that the so-called cannabis consultant you're talking to might not know what they're doing, or just be wanting to take your money, regardless of what they may be able to do for you?
Some of the best things that you can do when you're sourcing, some kind of a consultant for you would be to see some kind of previous work, collaborations, or some kind of previous work experience, whether it be pictures of work that they've done, whether that be labs that they've set up, grows that they've set up. If they claim that they've won cannabis cups, do the research. Go check out what awards that they've won and see if their name's attached to that. Because those are good telltale signs, because there's a lot of, I will say this, there's a lot of celebrity growers they call themselves celebrity growers, which is insane, because it's more of a science than it is like an art celebrity form, I think, personally.
Absolutely.
And I mean, when you have that type of ego going, you want to do consulting. You know what I'm saying? And when they say they won all these awards, do the research. Make sure that if the grower that you're choosing is actually representing himself to the fullest, or herself to the fullest capacity. And that same thing goes for extraction techs and anyone doing extractions as well. If they claim that they came from another industry, do their research. Make sure that they actually are, telling you the credentials that they're actually representing is who they are. Because a lot of people will use someone else's biography and change the name on top, just so they can get a job. And I call that faking it till you make it. And that's a lot of people trying to break into this industry or trying to represent themselves in this industry, is this fake it till you make it. Well, I can watch a YouTube video and, I'm an expert on distillation. No, you're not, because you have not even ran an actual run of it. You haven't even actually distilled anything. You know what I'm saying? You watch someone else do it. So that's another thing too, is you got to also make sure that the depth of the information that you're getting presented from the consultant is actually holding its water. Because you got people that can basically, again, fake it till you make it. And that's pretty much the way I could sum it up, is watch out for people that are trying to fake it till they make it. Do the research, do the background research on the people. If they have a license and a badge, make sure all their licenses and their training is current and up to date. If they have any extra trainings or things that they're claiming, make sure that those things are real, and that those entities actually recognize these certificates or the trainings that this consultant is presenting to you. And actually, it's cross-utilization, honestly, because it's not only the consultant that is someone that can be hosing the owner or the client. It could also be the owner or the client that could be also hosing the consultant as well. So there's also things you watch out for in regards to investigating that as well, from an opposite perspective, or from an investor to an investor perspective. If you're looking to get in business with somebody in the cannabis industry, and you're maybe like, hey, there's 5 of us, all of us go together, we can make a company and we can start our own company in the cannabis industry. We have the funds if all of us go together. Investigating each one of those entities and doing financial backgrounds, getting lawyers involved, getting accountants involved. These are necessary things that need to take place if you're going to basically marry somebody in business, especially in the cannabis industry. It just seems that there's a lot more, I guess, people trying to swindle in this industry because it's new and it's an emerging thing. And there's a lot of people that are naive who have money, and there's a lot of people that have experience in conning people who were involved in the illegal drug trade before this became illegal in a sense in certain areas. But yeah, so a lot of these people came from different other backgrounds that might not have been as clean and dry as a normal business person in a normal regulated industry. So beware for who you deal with when you're signing those contracts.
Absolutely, and you brought up a point that's really good for people trying to get into business, and that is really vet the people that you're going to go into business with. Do thorough backgrounds, because like you said, it is like a marriage, and careers, family incomes are on the line. You don't want to get involved with someone that may have a shady background, or a lot of times may have already scammed somebody and been busted for it. You can find that out easily.
Totally. And one more thing to piggyback off that, I mean, the great thing about seed to sale tracking systems, it holds all entities that are involved accountable for the operations. Because there's a lot of times where you have a really tight operation where all the employees, there's no theft in regards to the employee level, but you have at an ownership level, you have one owner or 2 owners that basically take liberty with the product because they have the power, because they're an owner, and they basically peel off product. So there's that as well. So it's the seed to sale tracking in regards to, hopefully that they implement systems like that in Florida, because I think they're honestly very big necessity, I guess you could say, in regards to regulating something that it seems like everybody wants to get their hands on.
You are aware of the marijuana solution.
FloridaMarijuana.net is the #1 source for state licensed dispensaries and doctors in your area. Search our site, compare results, and get the help you deserve today at FloridaMarijuana.net.
You are aware of the marijuana solution.
So we are going to have seed to sale technology in Florida. That's definitely going to be a part of it. Even with that, do you still see sales diverted, or cannabis diverted to the black market, like you're saying? I mean, you have an owner that's dishonest, diverting cannabis. I mean, does that always prevent that from happening with the seed to sale technology? Is it hard to get around?
It really restricts it. I mean, it's very difficult, honestly, it's very difficult to pull a fast one. Let's just say that, because where we're at, all of our seed to sale tracking system is also monitored out of a facility in Georgia called Metric. And they basically, if you have, so like, let's say you create a package, which would be, a pound of marijuana. So you have a pound of nugs and you peel off 15 grams, you try to steal it. and you go into the system and you actually have less on hand than you actually have in the system. You have to adjust that. Every time you make an adjustment in the system by minusing out product, and that minus isn't tied to a sale, that basically throws a red flag up for this other monitoring agency called Metric, which basically watches all the transactions that are happening on their system and their software. So you also have other monitoring entities that are watching what's going on. And if you have too many red flags, you get investigated. So, I mean, regardless, if you try to do it occasionally, or you're going to get caught eventually. I mean, there's no way around it. There is actively people monitoring and watching everything that's going on in regards to the seed to sale tracking.
That's good. That's really good.
When you start off with, let's say you start off with like an ounce of nugs or an ounce of trim, and you do a run on that, depending on the initial percentage of what that product would test at. So like, let's just, obviously you guys aren't latent with analytical labs that can just test your product, and if they could, it would only be for the companies and not for you. But let's take some ballpark figures here. When you're running like sugar leaf or trim is going to run anywhere between 6 to 12% maybe on a high end in regards to its THC content. Nugs are going to range anywhere between 8%, and I've seen it upwards of 35%.
Wow.
That's for solid nugs. So you're pretty much going to be running either one of those, right? In regards to your BHO concentrate or your hydrocarbon extract. So you're normally going to base your return off what you estimate the initial test results are. If you have a really sugary bud, really sugary, and you're like, man, this is the sugariest stuff I've ever seen. It's coated in trichomes. That might only test at around 25%. It doesn't mean it's going to be 30 and 35%. It's not going to be super elephant bud or big bud or anything like that.
Right.
But so if you can estimate that around 25%, if you're blasting 100 grams of nugs, you're going to get about 25 grams of concentrate back. If you're running a 12% mixture and you're running 100 grams of, like, let's say trim or sugar leaf, and you think it estimates to test out around 10%, you should be estimated to get out around 10% of 100. So you get about 10 grams of BHO extract, and that's going to be your hydrocarbon extraction yields on that.
And of all the extractions, is the CO2 extraction the costliest for the producer?
CO2 is the costliest for the producer, correct, yes. There's a lot of things that go along with, I mean, the machine itself is extremely expensive. You can get a hydrocarbon setup, an ETS setup for just around 30 grand, and that comes with all the bells and whistles except for the butane. As long as you got the operating facility to have this machine in and to use it, that's going to probably be your best bet if you're trying to do some kind of non-polar extract. But CO2, I mean, the machine cost alone could be anywhere from $125,000 up to $500,000 for the setup, depending on the electronics and the things that are included with it. And then also along with that, a lot of the times you have to do modification of premise, which means you have to actually alter the facility that you're operating in because the electrical might not be powerful enough to power the compressor and all the machinery and all the equipment that you would need to run these processes. Because you'd also need a heavy load compressor that's going to need to run the machine as well. And then you got a chiller that you have to power. And then I imagine all of your other refinement equipment that you have to have along the way is also going to suck up your power. So there's a lot of other things that are, like, I refer to them as hidden costs that come with running a highly electrical draining extraction machine, when you can just get like an ETS with a Haskell pump, and just get an across international oven and a griddle, and you're good to go, and you can make pretty much anything on all that.
Is there a significant difference in the amount of material that's required to process for the low THC cannabis? Because that's what we've been told in Florida is the reason for the low THC products being nearly twice as much as the ones with no restriction on the THC.
No, that's not true at all. I did CBD and hemp extractions for 2.5 years on all low CBD product, and it was the same as you should be doing when you run a normal alcohol extraction. The only difference is it's not the fact that there is less glandular structures on the plant. It's not that there's less trichomes on the plant. It's that the trichomes have a different chemical composition, and those chemical constituents are going to be low in THC, THCA, I imagine initially, and high in CBD. So yeah, that's totally false. It's all based on what kind of extraction that you do, who's running your extraction, and the genetics of the plant, and then what those genetics actually test out at an analytical lab at. And that's going to be your baseline for your extraction, regardless of whether it's low in THC or high in THC. That doesn't matter.
So just to finish up here, is there anything else you'd like to talk about that we haven't covered yet today?
I mean, pretty much I'm excited to see what's going to happen in Florida, because I came from Florida. I grew up there, and I'd really like to see the legalization effort take that state first out of all the southern states, because that's one I'm from, and it would be nice to have operations set up in both areas, in regards to having two strongholds that I'm able to hop back and forth from. So I'm looking forward to the legalization effort in Florida for sure, and the ability to have everyone be able to grow at their own houses and their own homes is really important as well. Probably the most important, especially if you know how to grow. Because a lot of companies that are out there selling their product, you got to be weary of what they're putting on their product, especially in a state that's not as regulated as Colorado, where every pesticide and fungicide is regulated, that you apply to the plants. There's logs. I mean, they come in and look at everything. So there's no pulling a fast one on the regulating entities here. In Florida, I imagine once you're allowed to start cultivating in large scales, it's not going to be as regulated. The different types of pesticides will be used, different types of fungicides will be used that you probably don't want to have on your final product. And if you think about it, the seriousness of using improper pesticides and fungicides calls all the way down to the concentrate. Because if you think about it, when you're doing an extract and a rinse on the outside of the cannabis plant, if that has excess concentrations of fungicides and pesticides, you're not only concentrating those constituents with your concentrate, but you're taking them in larger doses. Because normally it would be spread out over a large amount of plant material versus a small concentrated amount that you're probably dabbing or vaporizing. So be very wary of the people that you buy from, especially extracts. Again, over here they regulate the solvents in regards to what are in the extracts. So there's RSAs, or residual solvent analysis, that they run on all extracts that are sold, and that will dictate either it's going to get kicked back and rejected, you can't sell that batch, or it's going to be permissible to be sold on the shelf. So these are things that, since Colorado has developed this in the way that it's evolved, Florida won't have this initially, but these are still things that you should watch out for. You should watch out for who you're buying your products from, what they're using to grow. Always ask the people, if you're going to buy cannabis from somebody, or hemp, or extracts, what do they use for their grow method? What do they use, organic versus synthetic? What type of pesticides do they use? They should be fully transparent in regards to letting you know that. That type of information should be readily available to the patient or the customer in regards to if it's recreational or if it's medicinal. And you should definitely have access to that information before you consume anyone else's product, unless you grow your own, which is what I recommend to do. I've been growing for 5.5 years now for my own consumption. And I mean, it's the best thing ever, because you don't have to worry about going to the store to go do it, because you have it on your own. If you run a perpetual cycle on your harvest, you always have products. So you never have to worry about getting fill-in from somebody else. So that's really probably the largest thing that I would probably convey to Floridians in this new emerging industry is make sure you're buying product from people that you trust, and that they're using ingredients that you know are going to be healthy for you to consume.
Can you, or do you want to recommend anybody out there in Colorado? I know they're probably not integrated here in Florida, but maybe if some of our people are traveling out there, any particular vendors that you feel are safe, worthy, trustworthy, well vetted?
Oh yeah, totally. There's a couple out here. The clinic is a really good one. Denver Relief's another good one out here. The health center is another really good one, and Pink House is another really good one as well. So if you guys come out here and you check out some dispensaries, you guys hit those up, I guarantee you'll probably have a good time and a good experience with the products you consume.
Do people have the ability to just show up in Colorado now and get product, or is there...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You just got to be 21.
Okay.
Yeah, you show up, you're 21, you're good to go. You could buy recreational here.
Okay, so no recommendation from a doctor needed anymore.
Unless you want to do medical. Like, I mean, there are still people that get medical recommendations. I still get my medical recommendations. That's the reason why I moved here in regards to my consumption, was that I was able to get a recommendation for that. But, yeah, if you're coming here for recreational purposes and you want to see what it's like to live the Colorado lifestyle for a little bit, as soon as your boots hit the ground here at DIA, you can go immediately into downtown Denver and go to any recreational shop and buy whatever you'd like. I can't guarantee that you're going to get the best prices. Obviously, there's discounts for medical patients, and recreational prices they're not as crazy as they were. When they first hit the scene here, the price gouging was insane. I mean, people were paying like $60 for an eighth, recreationally up to $100, depending on the strains that they were getting. I mean, some of the concentrates could be up to $150 a gram. Recreationally, yeah, it's the concentrates I've seen the largest in regards to the price differences, but they're starting to normalize now, and the prices are kind of merging into an area where they're equalizing in a region where they're kind of together, and it's almost like the medical's kind of vanishing from the scenery here. They're starting to try to eliminate home growing here, and they're trying to eliminate caregivership here. When I moved here, you were able to be basically a caregiver. You can have 6 patients that you grow for. You can grow plants on their behalf, and then you can legally sell them that cannabis product for as a donation for the proceeds at a cost to grow it and your time. And now it's basically to the point where you can't even get that type of permission. They're limiting home grows. They're limiting caregiverships. They're limiting the amount of plants that you can grow at your house. They used to recognize plants beyond the plant count, but not in excess of like 100. Some doctors would recommend like 70-something plants or 90 plants. Those are fine, but once you pass that like 99 plant threshold, it becomes an issue. But now it's to the point where doctors are really getting strapped hard for even recommending 24 plants or anything over the 6 plant recommendation. So that's kind of being an issue, because it's kind of like your rights as a cannabis consumer and user and medical patient are being taken away, especially the limiting of the home grows. Restricting your ability to grow at your own house. That's basically telling you that you have to go to an outside entity to get your medicine and your cannabis, and you can't even provide it for yourself. And that lets you be prey to whatever types of activities that these people who are cultivating it and producing these products for you are doing. That makes you susceptible to whatever they're putting on their product. And I don't like that, and I really hope that doesn't go the route where they stop home grows here. That would really be a tragedy, honestly. I mean, everyone should be allowed to grow cannabis all over the world. All
right. Well, hey, we really appreciate you coming on today and sharing your thoughts and insights. If you ever want to come back, please do. We'll certainly arrange it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
It was a great time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
FloridaMarijuana.net is the #1 source for state-licensed dispensaries and doctors in your area. Search our site, compare results, and get the help you deserve today at FloridaMarijuana.net.
You are aware